A Super Bowl champion.
The Green Bay Packers have won the Super Bowl.
The Packers' all-time leading scorer.
A game winner for Mason Crosby.
It's time for the Mason Crosby Show with Mitch Nellis, presented by Verizon, the official 5G network of the Green Bay Packers, on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network, powered by the Potawatomi Sportsbook, and on the free Odyssey app.
Hi, so you got the memo. You're on.
That was me.
Okay. I was going to say.
It's all good.
I see you got the memo.
The red memo.
Yeah, the red memo.
Yeah, it would hate to be a bull watching our show right now.
Yeah. Is it Badgers? I'm not wearing red because of Badgers. I just threw on whatever quarter zip I find.
I also just threw on a sweatshirt today, and then Brett Andrews also in the office wearing basically the identical outfit of me
he
today.
is I'm wearing a quarter zip. You're wearing a hoodie. He's also wearing a red hoodie and khakis.
Yeah.
I'm wearing green khakis.
It is red day, I guess, here.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but it looks good. Everyone looking good, looking fresh.
Happy Red Day. High noon. Welcome in to the Mason Crosby Show, presented by Verizon, the official 5G network of the Green Bay Packers. I'm Mitch Nellis. He's Tommy Wirtz.
Speaking of red,
Miami Redhawks trailing UMass right now.
Really?
In the what is that? The
A10?
The MAC,
MAC,
right?
okay.
Yeah, the MAC championship.
UMass is in the MAC now?
Yeah, that's recent.
Shouldn't they be in the A10?
Well, they were an independent for a long time.
Right.
I can't remember if we said this on air or off air, but it was, are we going to just continue to bet against Miami?
Yes. Yeah, we said that on the air.
Until they lose and just double it every time, because they're not going to go into the tournament undefeated, and they're currently losing right now. They almost lost their second to last game of the year. Game of the year.
And last game, they went to overtime.
But at some point, this
Both
team
were
is
close,
going
actually,
to lose,
you would
and
think.
they are going to lose first round of the tournament.
UMass is beating Miami 83-81 with 28 seconds left. It's on ESPN Plus, so I guess I could get it up on my phone.
I can update accordingly.
I'm good.
Too.
I got it. This is, and again, yesterday was great. Tons of college basketball games. Even more today. The battle for UW, Washington taking on Wisconsin in Chicago in the Big Ten tournament. Marquette goes down last night. We've got Texas Tech beating Iowa State 23-22. Virginia's beating NC State 33-32. St. John's all over Providence 48-27. UMass, again, 83-81. Let's click an update.
85-81.
85-81.
I think
9 seconds left.
I think they just fouled a three-pointer, though, UMass.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I think Miami's going to the line shooting three.
Okay.
All right. Yeah.
So,
we can update accordingly as it goes.
Yep, we definitely can. Continuing to look at the scoreboard, George Washington beating Fordham. There's your A10 tournament, 49-36. Ohio State leads Iowa 34-30, halftime of the first game of the Big Ten tournament of today, of the Big Ten tournament. Oh, look at you. You're unbelievable.
I was just going to say, I was like, do you have that screen up? I have it up over there. And I was thinking maybe I do that for right now.
You just dragged that right over to the big screen.
You're welcome.
All right, we'll see what happens here with Miami of Ohio. They are the 1 seed in the MAC against the 8th seeded UMass.
Ooh, made it again.
Yep, they are 31-0. They are 18-0 in conference. UMass 16-15 overall, 7-11 in conference. It is 85-83 with 9.9 seconds left. Miami of Ohio, one more free throw to go. It is a miss. UMass gets the rebound, and there is a foul with 8.3 left. So we will find out what's going on in the Big Ten last night. Iowa takes care of Maryland. We had that during the show. Washington goes to overtime to beat USC. And you know what? There's nothing better than being the team with the bye in a tournament, knowing the team you're playing went to overtime the day before.
A little bit of rest.
Yeah, that is the best. Yeah. Like, you are just waiting, and they are tiring themselves out and getting crazy. Love that. Northwestern, with the upset of Indiana, couldn't happen to a better group of guys. Couldn't happen to a nicer group of guys. UMass makes the first free throw, by the way. Northwestern beats Indiana, and then Minnesota beats Rutgers in not really an upset, but a game, I guess. So the matchups today, Iowa, Ohio State's at half, Washington, Wisconsin, Northwestern versus Purdue. That's a classic Big Ten matchup. Minnesota taking on UCLA. So UCLA with the single bye, just like the Badgers as well. UMass makes both free throws. They were up 4 8.3 left. And they could have stolen the inbound. They do not get away. We're down to 5.9 seconds left, though. Wow, what a game.
I mean, we called that. We called this. There's
Yeah.
no way they were going to the tournament.
We called there would be
with 3 games left. We were like, they're going to lose one of these 3 games.
I actually wonder how many people bet the UMass money line. Like, I'll bet an inordinate amount of money in Vegas and or at the Potawatomi Sportsbook were placed on the UMass money line just because Miami has to lose at some point. It is over. UMass has beat Miami of Ohio. Miami of Ohio falls to 31-1. Will they make the tournament, Tommy Wirtz?
Yeah, I mean, they'll be they're going to be a 12 seed probably,
12,
or something,
13 even.
You know? Yeah,
maybe 11.
They should. I mean, you go 31-1. You should. I don't see them as watching this game specifically for pretty much beginning to end. They don't scare me.
Yeah,
as far as if they're a 12 team and your team sitting on
like
the
that
5
5-12.
Yeah, it doesn't work. It doesn't bother me.
I actually think they might be the team you most want.
Yes,
as you're the 5.
I agree.
And I don't know a lot about Miami of Ohio, but I do wonder, like, were they scary at some point this season and they just got less scary? You know who's scary? Tommy Wirtz? Javon Hargrave can be scary. I'm excited. I'm happy. I saw that signing. We had talked about it since Minnesota had announced they were going to be releasing him, that he had played in Philly under Gannon. We knew that this was a distinct possibility. It happened like literally immediately when he was released. The Packers announced the signing, or the Packers haven't announced the signing. By the way, I have all these press releases I printed out. I know you're proud of me that I print things out of like the moves the Packers like made official yesterday.
Yeah,
it's like that whole list. I'm into Javon. Like, I don't think this cures all ills, but I feel like I've been yelling from the mountaintop for 3-4 weeks about how D-line can fix the secondary.
Well,
D-line can make a difference. And Javon Hargrave is one of those guys.
Especially in the big games, right? You just want pass rush. And if you can get home with 4 versus sending a guy out for a blitz, like, that's going to be very beneficial. Hargrave now being probably he's going to be DT2, right? And he's going to be the second guy on that line. But that 4-man front at full health of Micah Parsons, Javon Hargrave, Devontae Wyatt, Lucas Van Ness, it's absolutely better on paper than last year, rocking out with Rashawn Gary, Devontae Wyatt, Colby Wooden, and Rashawn Gary. I mean, whoever that would have been in that position. So I think right now, Brian Gutekunst having a fantastic offseason, bringing in, Sky Moore yesterday for a specialist. They bring in a big corner, and now they go out, spend some money on Javon Hargrave, 2-year deal reportedly worth $23 million over the next 2 seasons.
I did not check the fine print on this one, Tommy. How does this affect next year's comp picks?
I don't quite know that.
Yeah.
I would assume it cancels one out.
Right.
Probably if you're going to do that. I think that the Packers will take it though. You get a pass rush guy from the interior like you have with Devontae Wyatt. He takes a lot of snaps too. He can be a part of this team on, second and third down type obvious pass rush situations. And again, if Devontae Wyatt is a little unhealthy coming back, which we have seen over a couple of seasons now with him, Javon Hargrave can absolutely take over defensive tackle 1 reps 2, which I think is going to be very beneficial for this team. Gives them a little more insurance, and defensive line wins championships. That's my tagline now.
Yeah, I'm as clearly I've been yelling from the mountaintops. I clearly agree with that mantra because I think defensive line covers up.
I can't even evaluate the Packers without Micah Parsons on the field now.
Right.
It's just not fair. So even
it's a different team.
If he misses that first 4 weeks or 5 weeks, 6 weweeks even of the season,
right,
I don't even know how I'm going to be able to fairly evaluate it.
You're not.
And to think of right now, the Green Bay Packers, if they were going to start out 3-3 without Micah Parsons, I think I'd be like, that's fine. They stayed afloat at that point because Micah Parsons means that much to this team, it feels like.
Absolutely. Absolutely changes things. 414-677-1250 is the Nicolay Law Talking text line. 414-677-1250. Your reaction to the Javon Hargraves signing. I'm excited about it. It makes me feel a lot better about the defensive line. I think he's still got a lot to, he's 33, right?
So he was cut, so it might not affect the comp pick.
Okay,
at all.
I could see that.
That's coming from the 414.
Because he wasn't a pure free agent.
Mm-hmm.
He was a cut free agent. Similar, like if the Vikings signed Kyler Murray, that would not affect things as someone who is cut. The Falcons won't get penalized for signing Tua. That would make sense. I was wondering about that as well.
Rather than letting his contract expire. Okay, cool.
Right.
We learned something today.
Thank
you, 414, after doing some research.
Is there anyone else? Are there any other edges? Is there anyone else the Packers need to be keeping their eye on right now?
Well, looking at some of the top available free agents that are still out there, you got the Rasheed Walker, Kyler Murray as the top two guys right now. Looking as the edge position goes, Joey Bosa,
really
could be interesting. I don't know if he got a deal done yet. Bradley Chubb got signed yesterday, right?
He got the big one with the Bills, so Bosa's probably gone from the Bills.
Right? Yeah, you would think, right? Do you want to bring in Jadeveon Clowney? Is he 47 years old yet?
Feels like it.
Yeah, DJ Reader was another defensive tackle candidate I know people were looking at for the Green Bay Packers to bring in, but with the Hargrave signing, you would assume that's
Hargrave
done.
is great, but I still, am I wrong that I still want like the 350 pounder?
Well, what about the news also
like the Gilbert Brown
from Easton Butler on Twitter?
Yeah.
That Josh Sweat has requested a trade, and the Packers and the Eagles have both been in contact for that.
He was Gannon's guy last year, right? Maybe what we're doing right now, Tommy, is we're wearing Arizona Cardinals red because we're manifesting
Josh Sweat
to the Packers.
Do you want to have Lucas Van Ness go back down to DN number 3?
I'm okay with that.
You're okay with that?
I'm okay with that.
You didn't think you saw a little bit of something last year that would make you think,
I saw a little bit of something.
Right. If he was the 4th best defensive lineman on a 4-man front, you don't think that the Packers can do it?
All right. First of all, let's go back to something you said earlier.
Yeah.
Parsons is out for probably minimum of 4 weeks.
Right.
Up to 6. He'll come back sometime in October.
Yep.
But so LVN is starting
he's
edge
the
then.
Yeah.
Right. And does Sweat make the team that much better? I think he does.
Yeah, probably.
I think you're getting home with 4, and I think it gives you an opportunity to bring even when Micah comes back, like for the first month he's back, he doesn't have to play full time if you have Sweat and LVN there.
Yeah, get him a little bit on the snap count.
Right. And then at some point you play all 5 of those guys together. And LVN is kind of like a de facto edge linebacker.
Right.
And you're just like crushing dudes. And then you're playing around with I know we hate when we see this, but it actually was pretty effective. Micah dropping back into coverage. Like Micah not rushing. You got 2 offensive linemen assigned to Micah Parsons. They're both focused on Micah. Micah drops back. And by the time these 2 guys figure out what their assignment is, the quarterback's in the ground. The quarterback's on his face. The quarterback's eating grass. I'm okay with that. I like that a lot. I'm here for that. So thank you to clearing it up. I thought since he was cut, it doesn't affect the comp picks next year. I think that's right. Short Center likes the rumors for a trade for Montez Sweat. So we've got some good information on the Nuclear Law Talking text line. Hargrave was cut, so it does not affect comp picks.
Yeah.
I love that.
So last year, Josh Sweat, he's 28 years old. He'll be entering, looks like his 9th season here now, drafted in 2018. He had 12 sacks last year with Arizona.
Okay.
A guy that's had...
How many next to Micah? He'll have 20,
I don't make that prediction anymore.
I
can't do it. I can't do it. 8 sacks the year before with Philly when he got paid. 6.5, 11, and 7.5. So literally has been as good or better than Rashawn Gary since 2021.
I've got the Packers press releases here real quick. Just want to go through them. Packers sign Sean Ryan to a contract extension. Packers announced trade with Cowboys, Rashawn Gary for a 4th-round draft choice in 27. I'm so bad at this.
Yeah.
Are you crying inside right now?
No, I'm just letting you go.
Packers release Nate Hobbs.
That was a better one.
Yep. And Packers have acquired Zaire Franklin in a trade in exchange for Colby Wooden.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can't leave the gym on a miss. That was a good one.
No, thank you. So those are the 4 press releases that came through yesterday. Man, good job, Tom Fanning from the Packers media for getting those press releases out. Let's go to CJ in Caledonia. CJ, you are up first on the Mason Crosby Show.
Hi, guys. Thanks for taking my call.
Yeah, you bet. What do you got for us today, CJ?
In LVS 90, was drafted under a 3-4 kind of regime,
Yep.
Do we know how we're gonna orientate our front?
It's probably staying 4-3. We know Gannon plays a lot of zone.
He mixes it up too. That's right. He's kind of been the schemeless guy. That's been the thought. But obviously, with bringing in a guy like Hargrave, they have plans for Devontae Wyatt too. And neither of those guys are going to be on the edge, and you have to put Micah Parsons on the field.
Exactly. Is it a 3 nickel? Is it a 3 safety nickel? What's the configuration and when you're in the nickel, which is most of the time. But I like the corner. I think there's tells to the moves. I think it speaks to a 3-4 switch with versatility, but I don't know if there's another one coming free agent wise, but it'll be a defensive loaded draft, I would suspect.
Yeah, and I think we're all on board that it all starts with D-line. If you can win in the trenches, you're going to win football games. Thanks for the call, CJ. All right, CJ drops off. Coming up next on the Mason Crosby Show, I had a chance earlier today to talk to Keith O'Brien. He wrote a book called Heartland. It's about Larry Bird, his childhood, going to Indiana for 3 weeks, and then dropping out and kind of disappearing. And could ended up being disappeared like his whole life.
It was a great interview. I got to watch it.
He was ready to just give it up and just be a trash collector in French Lick, Indiana for the rest of his life. And so a lot of great interviews with former teammates and a great segment at the end talking about Sidney Moncrief and kind of his rivalry with Sidney Moncrief, which also started in college.
Which also goes under the radar a little bit.
Yes, because we all think about Larry and Magic. But Larry and Sid had a great Celtics-Bucks rivalry, but it started in college when Indiana State met Arkansas in the Elite Eight the same year that Indiana State played Michigan State in the finals. So Keith O'Brien, author of Heartland, coming up here on The Mason Crosby Show. Us now on the Mason Crosby Show with Mitch Thunder Nellis. He is New York Times bestselling author Keith O'Brien. He just wrote a brand new book, Heartland, A Forgotten Place, An Impossible Dream, and the Miracle of Larry Bird. And before we tell, we have to say, a lot of us feel like we know the Larry Bird story. He went to Indiana. It didn't go well. Bobby Knight's crazy. Larry left and then became like the greatest college basketball player in the history of college, and then led the Celtics back to glory. But Keith, as we bring you in, it's a lot more complicated than that, isn't it?
Well, it is. And I think it's different because of the perspective that I've taken here. Heartland isn't a soup to nuts Larry Bird biography. This is, an origin story, really. The narrative unfolds between 1973 and 1979. Everything else is epilogue. And, anytime people have come to this story over the past 50 years, what we end up doing is the Bird magic story.
Sure.
We do that narrative where we weave in Larry Bird and Magic Johnson together. And listen, I get it. I understand why we do that. Bird and Magic will play against each other in that epic championship game in March 1979. The most watched game of all time. And then they're going to go on to save the NBA, become, generational icons. I get it. But right. In the 70s, these two men barely know each other. Mm-hmm. They met one time. In that one time, they hardly spoke. So they're not friends. They're not rivals. They're not anything. Yeah. And so what I wanted to do here is sort of tilt the camera a different way and take a different perspective. And when you do that, you end up zooming in on this incredible origin story in rural Indiana in the 1970s, a moment in time where Larry Bird nearly slips away forever, nearly vanishes off the basketball map. Right. And what you also get is this incredible cast of characters around him who were there, who did shape and change and at times save Larry Bird. That's what this book is about. And I think that makes it more than just a sports story. I think it's just a compelling human narrative.
Keith O'Brien joining us here on the guest hotline powered by Gruber Law. And Keith, I think, I don't know how much you're on TikTok or YouTube or Facebook or all the, the reels and all that, but I feel like a lot of my algorithm right now is nostalgia. And it's like growing, I just turned 50. So born in 76, grew up in the 80s. Life was different then. And I think we all think of like, oh, Larry Bird grew up in rural Indiana. They were all farm boys. Downtown probably had one street light, but they were all like hardworking people. It was a little rougher. It was a little grittier, a little grimier than that, wasn't it?
It was. Orange County, Indiana, where French Lick is located, was the second poorest county in Indiana in the 70s, at a time when Indiana was one of our poorest states. Mm-hmm. So it's incredibly difficult circumstances growing up for Larry. His family struggles financially. His father struggles personally, struggles to hold down a job, struggles with a drinking problem, ultimately unravels. For those reasons, Larry isn't dreaming about becoming a college star. He's not dreaming of going to the NBA. Those sort of dreams, even for Larry Bird in the 70s, are so absurd as to not be considered. It's like going to the moon. All he wants to do in the early 70s is maybe be as good as his older brother, Mark. Mark Bird, was considered the best shooter from 15 foot or in that people in Orange County had ever seen. Yeah. And Larry just wants to be as good as Mark, maybe one day play, at Springs Valley High School. That's as far as he's willing to dream.
Wow. And certainly that takes off from high school. So before he decides to go to Indiana, what were his high school years like? And, you talk about a lot in the book, the cast of characters of that time in between Indiana and Indiana State. But how much did those youth characters either come back into his life during that time or kind of meld the person he ended up becoming?
Well, some of those people are crucial. Important note for all those parents out there who've got a kid in youth sports. Larry Bird is never the best player on his own team.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
until his senior year of high school.
Wow.
Not until then. First 3 years at Springs Valley High School, no one cares about Larry Bird. No one's recruiting him. At times, Larry, can't even get up in the morning to go to the morning practices. Jim Jones, his high school coach, a man I interviewed, now in his 80s, a local icon.
Yeah.
Would have to go in, Larry Bird's grandmother's house where Larry sometimes stayed amid all his family's problems. Wake Larry up just to get him to come to school, So Jim Jones plays a crucial role in the development of Larry Bird, teaches Larry, how to hold a ball, how to shoot, the fundamentals, all of it. And then, in between his junior and senior year of high school, something happens that changes basketball history. Larry Bird grows a preposterous 3 or 4 inches in a span of 6 months. And now
I can't imagine the shin splints.
Well, a fun detail, Larry's classmates told me that Larry's mother had to sew swatches of fabric onto the bottom of Larry's dungarees to extend these pants to the floor. They didn't even match the fabric with the denim, but no one was making fun of Larry Bird then because he was maybe the best basketball player they'd ever seen.
Keith O'Brien, author of Heartland, A Forgotten Place, An Impossible Dream, and The Miracle of Larry Bird. I'm going to take a left turn real quick. We're going to come back to this, but how much have you thought about the difference between Larry Bird's coming of age story through high school and the AAU universe we live in today, where no stone is unturned, where every player is part of the system at 13 years old, where there are these, huge indoor bubbles with 12 courts going on at a time all throughout the country. We have them here in Wisconsin. I'd say we have a great one in the Wisconsin Dells, which is a cool vacation area, but we've got, every high school now has their high school court and a field house so they can host tournaments. How different is that universe compared to what Larry Bird grew up in?
I mean, let me just put it this way. We are living in unprecedented and insane times.
Yes.
Never before in the history of American sports has youth sports been turned into the kind of industry that it is today. Mm-hmm. And let me tell you a story just to reflect that in the narrative of Larry Bird. As you indicated, he's going to go to Indiana for a minute, 3 weeks. And I pinpointed the exact day in which Larry leaves Bobby Knight. It's September 13th, 1974. He packs up his stuff from his dorm room. He hitchhikes home to French Lick. And in that winter, it is darker than anyone knows. By the spring of 75, Larry Bird has nearly disappeared forever. Yeah. And, the man who ends up recruiting him to come to Indiana State, a man named Bill Hodges, a down on his luck journeyman assistant coach, is literally driving the streets of French Lick looking for Larry Bird.
Wow.
Even today in 2026, a poor kid in a rural community or a poor kid in an urban community for that matter, would have a team of handlers around him from the age of 13, 14, 15.
They'd have video from their phone everywhere, YouTube.
Exactly. You'd have an agent, you'd have lawyers. You wouldn't go looking for this talent in rural Indiana. They would come calling for you. They would be setting up meetings with you as the agent cleaves 15% off the top of everything. So the world has fundamentally shifted in ways that are, frankly, probably hurting kids, hurting parents, hurting families. But at the time, Larry Bird nearly does slip away because that infrastructure isn't there, because there, are no handlers around him, no money around him. He's nearly gone as a result.
So Keith O'Brien with us today, author of Heartland, joining us on the Mason Crosby Show presented by Verizon. So what happens? You mentioned Bill Hodges finds him, but I'm guessing not just a bad taste in his mouth for Indiana University, but probably a bad taste in his mouth for basketball, a bad taste in his mouth for college, a bad taste in his mouth for coaching, whatever that might have been that Larry went through, even in those short 3 weeks. How do they convince him that Indiana State is the right place for him?
Well, it really is about a personal connection. In the winter and spring of 75, going into that spring, Larry is telling his mother he's not going back to college, telling his mother, any recruiter shows up, you send them away, slam the door in their face. I don't want to meet with anybody. And that's exactly what she does, by the way, to Bill Hodges, this Indiana State assistant coach.
Yeah.
Bill Hodges' career, just like Larry's, is moving in the wrong direction. Bill has worked at 3 different schools in 3 years. He's gone from these powerhouses, Tennessee Tech, Armstrong State, Indiana State. 3 years, 3 schools. He only gets the job at Indiana State because he knows Indiana. He's from rural Union Township, Indiana. Knows what it's like to grow up poor, knows every nook and cranny of that state, knows every little bandbox gymnasium. And so, Bill goes down there looking for Larry. Georgia Bird slams the door in his face. He drives those streets, not willing to give up, because Bill Hodges is just as stubborn as Larry Bird. And, when they do meet, it is a personal connection.
Yeah.
And that is why, Larry decides to come back to college. I mean, honestly, it's like Bill Hodges reached out and grabbed Larry and pulled him back from the brink. I do believe there is an alternative universe out there where Bill Hodges isn't hired at Indiana State, where Bill Hodges never goes down there and Larry never comes back to school. I do believe that alternative universe exists.
Did you read The Midnight Library, by the way?
I have not read The Midnight Library.
So it's a lot about alternate universes and regrets. And since you brought up, I just finished it last night, so it's on my mind.
Cool.
But I wanted to ask about multiple universes, and in the way that you just brought it up, I got to go to it. What is the multiverse where Larry stayed at Indiana? Like what? Like has anybody ever what if he stays at Indiana and still becomes Larry Bird, but does it with Bobby Knight and does it with those teams in the late 70s? Like, does Indiana go on a UCLA type run if they have Larry Bird there?
I love this conversation. I think there are so many sliding doors in the Larry Bird origin story in this book where, people end up in different places. The league, the NCAA tournament ends up in different places. I love all of this. And you're absolutely right. When Larry reports to Bloomington in August of 1974, that it is an incredibly talented team that's already in that locker room. To put it in perspective for a second, there are 5 future NBA players moving into the dorm that week. There are 42 years of NBA service moving into the dorm, 37,000 future NBA points moving into the dorm, and over the next 2 years without Larry, that Hoosier team under Bobby Knight is going to go 63-1. They're going to lose 1 game.
Yeah.
And win, of course, 1 national title. If Bird stays, I do think that team wins 4 in a row, reels them straight off. They win in 75, 76, 77, 78. Then, as a result of that success, they're recruiting even better than before. But remember, even without 4 in a row, Isaiah Thomas is coming a hot minute from now.
Right.
So you're absolutely right. Knight could have had, a Wooden-esque dynasty, but he misses it. And he misses it, frankly, for a simple reason. In August and September, a college coach can't have a lot of contact with his players. He can't run practices by rule. Nothing like that is happening. And so it's the older players, are running those practices and pickup games. It's ad hoc. It's informal. But what Knight fails to recognize is anything about Larry Bird. He doesn't know who he is. He doesn't know what he needs. He doesn't understand where he's broken. He doesn't understand how to mend those broken places. He doesn't know any of these things because Bobby Knight is filled with the flaw that brings down all men, right? He's filled with hubris.
Hubris,
He
absolutely.
knows they're good, and he doesn't care.
Wow. I mean, that's so amazing what that could have been. What we talked about, and I would say it's probably, the way the AAU world is kind of a negative versus what things were. But one thing that I think we're at least trending in the right direction is our focus, our taking seriously of mental health, which I think we do a lot better job. In fact, my younger daughter, she doesn't do it as much anymore, but when she was, when she was 7 or 8 or 9, she would walk into a room and tell everybody that she has a therapist and she loves her therapist and she loves it, which, wouldn't have been the case 20, 30, 40 years ago. Where would Larry Bird have been kind of on the mental health spectrum nowadays if he had gone to a school from a small town, dirt poor, maybe not treated great those 3 weeks, maybe picked on by the seniors, maybe never found his way academically, goes home, takes out the trash. And, is there a thought that like maybe mentally we take his mental health more seriously, but that could have gotten in the way of him becoming Larry Bird?
Well, we've sort of been dancing around it, but, in that winter of 74, 75, his father fully unravels, and tragedy is at the doorstep of the Bird family. And these days, to your point, we have a word for that. We would call this a trauma. And a team of people would have been brought in, to create a support network for Larry Bird, who at the time was 18 years old. He's a kid. He's a kid. But none of that happens, for Larry, in 75, in rural Indiana. He does have to shoulder this tragedy and this grief and push on in a lot of ways alone. And I think, some of those challenges will reflect how he handles the spotlight when it finds him ultimately 2 years later in 77, 78. When Larry does get to Indiana State and does sit out his redshirt year and then has one incredible year, no one cares about any of that because it's Indiana State, it's Terre Haute. He's still on the edge of the basketball map. No one cares. But that does change in 77 and 78. And now the spotlight is fully on him, the white hot spotlight of fame. And, a lot of players out there want that. Most do, frankly, right? That's why they're playing. That's why they're there. Yeah. Larry doesn't. He doesn't want that spotlight. He doesn't want to answer questions. In a lot of ways, he recoils from that, almost like a spider seeking safety in the shadows. So, all of that could have been different with the kind of support that he might have gotten in 2026. But, to your point, maybe that is also what's driving him too, driving him to be great. Based on my reporting in the book, throughout his childhood and his time at Indiana State, Larry would always seek solace on the court. He would live in the gym, live on the outdoor basketball courts. When he sits out that redshirt year at Indiana State, paying the price for having spent 3 weeks at Indiana, forced to transfer and sit out that year, they get him a key. They get him a key to the local boys club.
They had to.
So that he could go in there and stay as long as he want, stay all night, shooting and shooting.
That's amazing. Keith O'Brien, New York Times bestselling author of Charlie Hustle and Fly Girls, has written Heartland, A Forgotten Place, An Impossible Dream, and the Miracle of Larry Bird. And I got to ask about, I got to fast forward through his career. What I would say to everybody is read the book, and we'll give you in a second. We'll tell everybody where they can get the book. But being here in Milwaukee, obviously Larry had the rivalry with the Lakers and that, and I grew up in Boston in the 80s. So I remember that. I mean, I had my green shirt said beat LA on it. Like we hated the Lakers probably more than we hated the Yankees or the Canadiens at the time. Like it was the Lakers. They were the evil empire at the time. But here in Milwaukee, Milwaukee just, every year ran up more often than not against the Celtics, sometimes against the Sixers, but the Bucks had some good teams in the 80s. 50 plus wins almost every year. And just coming up against Larry Bird and just falling short, that aura of Larry Bird. I feel like sometimes it wasn't even that the Celtics were better than the teams they were beating, but the aura of Larry Bird and who he ended up becoming, one of the best smack talkers on the court, just taking every opportunity to compete. And we certainly felt that here in Milwaukee as Bucks fans, where, it's like, as good as the Bucks got, they just could never get over that Larry Bird hump.
Well, and those Bucks teams, correct me if I'm wrong, but that had Sidney Moncrief, right?
Absolutely.
Right?
One of the best defensive players on the planet.
And I'll say, if you are a Bucks fan out there, Sidney Moncrief is a character in this book. Again, people think about Bird Magic, but again, Magic was no different to Bird than any other great player he played in the late 70s. Sidney Moncrief is one of those players.
That's great.
Bird and Sidney will play together on a couple of barnstorming all-star teams that will, play across America and across Europe. They get to know each other then. And then in March 1979, 2 games before the Bird Magic game, Sidney Moncrief and Larry Bird play, in my opinion, one of the greatest college basketball games of all time.
Wow.
It's Indiana State, Arkansas.
Yep.
The winner is going to the Final Four. Arkansas is the better team, no question. They're deeper, bigger, stronger, more talent, more NBA stars, all of it. Sidney is a legitimate star, as good, as good as Larry Bird in those days. And down the stretch in that second half of that Arkansas Indiana State game, which is recounted in the book, it is like one of those heavyweight fights where 2 guys who are both going on to greatness, are doing something incredible on the biggest stage. That game, of course, is televised on NBC, national TV. It's sold out in Riverfront Coliseum in Cincinnati. The largest audience to ever watch a game in Ohio are packed into that arena that day. And there are 200 reporters at the game and 8 NBA coaches, including the coach of the Bucks, Don Nelson. They're all there, and they're on the edge of their seats for this game that really, is another sliding doors moment. And, not to spoil it for folks, but in the end, it is not Larry Bird who will hit the most important shot. It is not Larry Bird who will send Indiana State to the Final Four. It is Larry Bird's college roommates, a man named Bob Heaton, a man who's been forgotten. This is more than just a story of Larry Bird. It's the story of a team, a time, a place, a moment that is so enormous that it's literally picking up people like a tide and propelling them forward, Sidney Moncrief included, to places they wouldn't go otherwise.
Keith, I just got chills, and I appreciate that. Where can we find the book, Heartland? Go ahead.
Well, Heartland's available today wherever they sell books, however you consume books. Obviously it's in the hardcover edition. You can also get it in ebook or audiobook, available today wherever you get your books.
I love it. Keith, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for the time. As a Boston kid, I could probably do like another hour or 2, but we got to get to break. I've had a blast catching up with you today, and good luck with the book, and let's stay in touch. And I love the Sidney Moncrief connection and the stories, and it was great connecting today.
Oh, so much fun. Thanks so much for having me.
He is Keith O'Brien, author of Heartland, A Forgotten Place, An Impossible Dream, and The Miracle of Larry Bird. We'll be right back. This is the Mason Crosby Show, presented by Verizon. Our thanks to Keith O'Brien for jumping on the Mason Crosby Show, presented by Verizon, talking about Heartland, his new book about Larry Bird and before he became Larry Bird and the trials and tribulations of that. Great book you can find anywhere you find your books. Mary Goldbeck 2726 writes in on YouTube. Sidney Moncrief was my favorite player when I was a kid. I got to see a Bucks game in like 8th grade. He was injured. I went down to the tunnel just before the half. He came through and I put my hand out and he shook it. I couldn't believe how tall he looked in person. He was 6'4", and I was like 5'2". Sidney Moncrief, good dude. And I know he for years did lots of work with the Milwaukee Bucks in the community as well. So great rivalry there.
Do you know how we say every show, no one's got more love than our show?
Yeah.
I'm going to go out and say no show reads more than our show either.
I think I read more than everyone here combined.
Correct.
So I think.
But I did some reading on the plane.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fiction, nonfiction? What did you read?
I was reading Inner Excellence.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Okay, AJ.
Right. It worked.
Future Patriot, AJ Brown?
Maybe.
We come back. Jeff Hem, Nashville Sounds, play-by-play voice, going to join us. We're going to talk some Brewers and some spring training and all the good stuff. It's the Mason Crosby Show, presented by Verizon. There is madness in Chicago. Ohio State, which led by double digits, anywhere from 9 to 12 or 13 points most of the second half, now lead by 2 with 38.7 seconds left over Iowa. The Big Ten tournament's going crazy. They're drunk on green beer a week early in Chicago. I don't know if they really are. Ohio State now up 1. This is awesome. My name's Mitch Nellis, a.k.a. Thunder. He's Tommy Wirtz. We got the red memo today. That's right. Again, our thanks to Keith O'Brien for jumping on. March conference tournaments going on, and we're keeping track of all the games. The Badgers play Washington half an hour after this game, so it's 1:02. And Ohio State trying to do something with the ball. We'll keep our eye on this one as we welcome to the show on the guest hotline powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Our Nashville Sounds play-by-play voice, Jeff Hem. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
Well, Mitch and Tommy, I'm doing great. Let me just get full disclosure out of the way. I'm an Iowa grad, and I pulled away from the broadcast to join you guys. So I am now I'm relying on you for the play-by-play here. I'm relying on you.
Can you see the game right now?
I cannot.
From where you are?
I cannot.
Okay.
I cannot.
Ohio State's going to the line up 1 with 8.8 seconds left. They drew a foul. They were not. Iowa was not fouling on purpose. But they did end up fouling 1-on-1. He makes the first. Iowa State up. Man, this is fun. I know this is great radio, right? You relaying another game to me while we're supposed to be talking about Brewers and Sounds baseball, but exactly, it's the absolute
it's Brewers adjacent because Jeff Levering has been on the call of this game, which I was enjoying. So it's Brewers adjacent. It's Brewers adjacent.
Ohio State makes the second. They're up 3. 8.8 seconds left. Timeout, Iowa.
Okay.
So Jeff, welcome in. I don't know how much of spring training you've got to watch or you've got to participate in. Like as the Nashville Sounds play-by-play guy, do you have other stuff going on during the rest of the year? How does it work with spring training as being the AAA affiliate?
Yeah, we come out. I say we, me and a few other guys from our Sounds front office come out here a few days right around this time every year. We don't have to be out here the entire time in the way that the Brewers do. And for us, it's really just a few days to kind of get eyes on some of the players that we haven't seen yet that seem likely to be with us at some point. It's to reconnect with our manager, Rick Sweet, and our coaches and meet with a few of the Brewers folks. We do some different interviews with former players and soon-to-be Sounds, and we'll catch up, I think, with Matt Arnold at some point for a social media piece that our team will put out. So it's fun to get out here for a few days, and it just further gets kind of those juices flowing for the season, which is only a couple weeks away. So our group just got out here yesterday, and the Brewers having a night game tonight. We're headed to the complex in a little bit. So I'm yet to see much baseball. We did not get in town yesterday in time to see their game yesterday. So excited to get over there and literally see it for ourselves here in a little bit. But it's just fun to be out here in the warm sun and to kind of scout out what the Sounds are going to look like. And as we know, every year, many of those guys are going to go up and down, and the Sounds, have played a big role in the Brewers' success these last few years, whether it's prospects, whether it's keeping some of the veteran minor league free agents ready for when an opportunity arises. I mean, the Brewers use more and more players every year, like all these major league teams do. So it creates a greater kind of intensity and focus for what the guys in the AAA level are doing to stay ready. So it's a fun time of year. I love coming out here every year, and it really gets us further excited for our season that starts up on the 27th in Nashville.
Well, and what are you the most looking forward to about Arizona on the baseball side of things then so far, Jeff? Because I don't know if you've heard, obviously, the number one farm system in baseball, a lot of those veteran guys who are competing for, that 26th spot, or whether or not they end up going down to Nashville. Who's some guys that you got on your radar that you're excited to see in Nashville, you think, in 2026?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, the Brewers have a couple of guys who are a little banged up on the pitching front, but for the most part, I think it's been a fairly healthy spring for them and on the position player side. So, look, it's a tough roster to crack in Milwaukee. So I think at the very beginning, the Sounds are going to be pretty.
Oh, I think we just lost him there.
Oh boy.
All right. Well, I'll try to get him back here.
All right, we'll effort him back. And I think, one of the things we'll talk to him about and that I'm excited about is not just the roster that's going to be deep, but the concept that we've been talking about so much over the past few days about, like, should pitchers be in the majors to get that major league experience, or should they be in the minors so that they can start every fifth day? And so, while we're talking about guys like Logan Henderson or Brandon Sproat or whoever that might be, and Jeff probably just jumped off so he could watch this final Iowa shot. They're down 7.2 seconds left, down by 3. That concept of, like, who should be, should they be in the starting lineup? Like, how should that work? And that is absolutely something that we're going to be keeping an eye on, because there are going to be guys up and down. There are going, it's great that we have, as Brewers fans, the number of starting pitchers we have and the quality of starting pitchers we have. But the injured list exists. Like, it's a 162 game season. Guys get hurt, guys get sore, guys get tired, guys need a rest, guys need a break, guys, strain a shoulder or a latissimus dorsi or whatever it might be. And we just have to go that route sometimes. So let's bring Jeff M back in, a play-by-play voice of our Nashville Sounds. Jeff, you still with us?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry about that.
Not a problem at all. We were just, I know you were talking a little bit about the roster, if you wanted to continue that.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly where we lost each other, but I think, I'm looking forward to some familiar faces, I think, at least at the start, being back in Nashville, because it's a good problem for the Brewers to have, that their major league roster is so tough to crack, that I think there are going to be some guys who will get up there and can help them at various times that will probably have to start in Nashville, which makes the AAA team pretty good from a depth perspective. And then you get guys, I think, that will be, if not on opening day at AAA, pretty early in the year. I think we'll get a look at some guys who've not been to AAA yet, whether that's Cooper Pratt or Brock Wilken on the left side of the infield, Luke Adams, and then when does Hector Madej make his way, if he gets off to a good start, seemingly where he's headed to Biloxi at AA, and Luis Pena. I mean, you mentioned, Tommy, the number 1 ranked farm system that the Brewers have. A lot of the guys that make up that reputation are going to be at the upper levels of their farm system at AA and AAA. So you've got guys coming, and a hard roster to crack at the major league level. That is the best combination. It's one thing to have the number 1 farm system in baseball, like, say, the Astros did years ago before they got really good, or Baltimore a few years ago before they got really good. The Brewers have already been really good, and now, again, have a very highly rated farm system. That is a terrific combination, because these major league teams use more and more players every year. It's just how it works with guys coming up and down. You need your AAA team to be ready and good. And I think the Brewers have shown that they do a good job at keeping those guys ready. And I think this year will be no different in that respect to start the year in Nashville.
How important, Jeff Hem, Nashville Sounds play-by-play voice, joining us here on the Mason Crosby Show. How important is it, in your opinion, Jeff, to have a healthy mix of guys who are those fringe major leaguers on the roster and young guys trying to crack a big league roster for success in a AAA season? I know sometimes that goes under the radar on what happens in Nashville, but maybe just from either a development standpoint or a success on the field, having a mix of guys who have some big league experience plus guys that are trying to get to that level.
It's a great point. I think it's critical, because I think the Brewers are very smart about who they call up and when they call them up. And sometimes you just need a guy for 2 or 3 days. You're going to carry an extra outfielder for whatever reason, or you're going up against a certain pitching staff and you want another left-handed bat on your roster, and you call up a guy from AAA who is going to fill that hole. And maybe it's not the highest rated prospect, or it's not the hottest hitter, because the hottest hitter at AAA at that time is a right-handed hitter, and you want a lefty or something like that. And then other times, I know the Brewers were very mindful last year of when they called up Jacob Mizorowski, because they obviously view him as a long-term huge piece of their pitching staff. And so they didn't want to just call him up to check a box or to have him pitch for one game. They wanted to be confident that when they called him up, he was pitching well enough that he could handle an extended runway, ideally to never go back to AAA. That's always the goal, and that's hard to do for some of these guys to stick at the big league level. So the timing of a call-up plays a big role in who they end up calling up. And sometimes it's the highly rated prospect who you hope never goes back to AAA, and other times it's somebody who's just going to kind of fill a hole temporarily and then go back down. And they can trust that player, maybe he's a veteran, and he'll do fine going back down, and he'll know, okay, maybe I'll be up again in 3 weeks, and I'm going to be kind of the up and down guy that's going up 3 or 4 times over the course of the year.
He's talking about Easton McGee right now.
Well, you need those guys.
You do need those guys. You do.
They're
Carlos
very
Rodriguez.
important.
Yep.
No doubt. And I remember a few years ago when the Sounds pitching coach at AAA was Jeremy Accardo, who's now at Arizona State. But he would tell guys, I think it was Jansen Junk at that time, who that year he was the up and down guy. Might have been like 2023, something like that, 24 perhaps. And he told me that he told Jansen, look, sometimes it's just not your time yet, meaning you'd love to go up and stay, but sometimes you have to be the up and down guy, and it takes a little while before you get that extended opportunity. That's just part of how these rosters get built, and that's how rosters have to be constructed right now. And there are literally rules about how many times you can call a guy up, or if you send him back down, how long does it have to be before you bring him back? So you need 3 or 4 at least of those guys who can be the up and down guys. And that's not easy to do and have success, both at the big league level, but also to keep your mind right when you get sent back to AAA and go back to doing your thing and jump right back into the rotation down there. So the Brewers strategically build their AAA rosters really well with the right mixes of the prospects and the veterans, and not just veterans, but what makes them a good veteran and what makes them able to handle the up and down role. Because if you're going to call up 15, 20 guys from a AAA roster over the course of a season, those are 15 to 20 really different circumstances of why they're going up, when they're going up, and who's going up. So you got to have that right mix, and the Brewers are as good as anybody at building that at the AAA level.
Jeff M., play-by-play voice of the Nashville Sounds, joining us on the Mason Crosby Show, presented by Verizon. Iowa guy. Iowa does go down to Ohio State by 3. Oh. They had it was kind of a weird ending. They missed the 3, but there was a foul under the basket, so they got a 1-and-1. They missed it. Ohio State grabbed the ball. Iowa stole it and had a pretty good look at a 3 at the buzzer and missed. I'm
hopeful. I think Iowa will be an at-large team. I think their win, especially their win yesterday over Maryland, I think helped further solidify. I'm optimistic that they'll get an at-large. But all right, well, thank you for being that. I'd rather have you be the bearer of bad news, honestly, than me having had to watch it and go through it and
throwing something across the room. But Jeff, you talked a lot about building the roster and that the Brewers have done a really good job at this, and that question of calling guys up and calling guys down. And one of the questions I've been noodling in my head, and we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, is the concept of when a pitcher is ready to be a starter, is it more beneficial for them to be in the bullpen in the majors or to start every 5th day in AAA? And I think specifically of Logan Henderson and Brandon Sproat this year. Yeah. I think a little bit maybe of DL Hall. I know Robert Gasser has not pitched well in spring training, so he might not even be in this conversation right now, but at least that thought process of guys who maybe are ready to be major league starters, but there's just not a spot for them because of how deep the Brewers starting rotation is. In your concept, is it a case by case basis, or is there some science to who's ready, who's more benefit, who is it more beneficial to be in the bullpen and to get that major league experience versus who really, to the benefit of the club, should be getting that ball every 5th day at AAA and being ready to start when inevitably someone does end up on the injured list?
Man, that is a great topic, because I think you mentioned the word science. To me, it's like an inexact science. I think it's case by case. I think the biggest thing for me when you were asking that and I was processing it, I think it's like, where are we in the season? Because I think back to late last year, you had Robert Gasser coming back from Tommy John surgery. It's like, okay, we view him as a starter long term here, but hey, this is a guy that can help us in these short spurts out of the bullpen, and they used him in the postseason, and he had some solid moments for the Brewers. And Jacob Mizorowski, another one. It's like they used him very, very strategically last year in the postseason. They view him as a starter long term. I think we've said that about Aaron Ashby and DL Hall for a couple of years. It's like, well, maybe there's no runway at that moment for a starting job, and now it looks like Ashby may be able to have that job. So late in the year, when you're just looking for out-getters for the postseason, I think it's easier to think of a guy switching roles or starter into reliever. For me, early in the year, my suspicion would be there's more value in keeping a guy ready at AAA, stretched out as a starter. Like, let's just say, for the example, you used Logan Henderson. If there's no spot in that opening day roster and he's healthy, to me, the player, of course, wants to be in the big leagues. So Logan would answer, hey, whatever I can do in the big leagues, I want to be in the big leagues. I think from a development standpoint and thinking of the long term, you're not trying to win the division in April. You're just trying to get off to a good start. I think there's value in keeping guys stretched out and pitching every fifth day at AAA if that is likely going to be how you use them early in the year. And, you think of like a Brandon Woodruff. The Brewers have said they're going to be careful with Woody. I think there's going to be starts here and there,
sure,
giving a guy an extra day or, doubling up on an off day for guys. And you almost have at times like a 6 or 7 man rotation in Milwaukee. And that's where those Logan Hendersons might come in. And that to me is where there's value in keeping them on a regular rotation down at AAA, as much as, of course, the player wants to be in the big leagues any day he can. I think there's value in kind of having those 2, 3, 4 AAA starters down ready in Nashville, and that if they need to go up and start, they're ready to go give you 4 or 5 innings instead of, well, he's been in our bullpen and now we got to spot start him and we're only going to get a couple of innings out of him. So that's kind of how I think of it early in the year. I'm thinking have an extra rotation's worth of guys in Nashville who are ready. And you think of them as starters, and you will likely use them as starters if you call them up to the big leagues.
Jeff, how exciting is it as a AAA broadcaster to get to see these guys before they are something, and then to look ahead at what the Brewers have coming up that you'll probably see Cooper Pratt this year. You might see Jesus Madej. You'll probably see some of these arms that we're talking about making the fringe spot. Like, what are some of your favorite I saw them before they were something type stories that you've seen throughout this organization?
Yeah, I think it's just whether you're at the major league level as an announcer or you're at AAA as an announcer, you're at the ballpark and around these guys so much. You see the work that they put in. You see them out there at 1:30 in the afternoon for a 6:30 game, taking ground balls in the heat and getting better. And not just sitting back. It's like, well, I don't want to get hurt because I might get called up. I'm just going to coast here. These guys work so hard every single day. And that's what is the enjoyable part when you see them go on to have big league success. I mean, like Bryce Terang and Sal Frelick come to mind right away. They work their tails off at AAA. They still work their tails off at the major league level because they know they're never a finished product. And it's been really fun to see the maturation of Terang. I mean, he was always a wizard defensively when we saw him in Nashville in 22, playing shortstop every day. But how his offense has come along, and he keeps getting a little bit bigger and a little bit stronger. And now you see him like he's a man out there, and not as much of the skinny kid that he was when he first got to AAA, and he was still kind of wet behind the ears as far as like prospect and years in the game go. And now he's one of the best players in baseball. So, and you just remember how hard he worked every day at AAA to get better and to try to earn his way to the big leagues. That never gets old. Mizorowski makes it look so easy. But another one, like, he works hard. He wants to be great. He didn't just want to rest on his triple-digit fastball. He wanted his changeup to be great. He wanted his other pitches to be great. These guys spend so much time kind of in the lab, quote unquote, of looking at their video and working on the side and getting better. So when a guy gets called up, like, they're not a finished product, but they're told, hey, you got here for a reason because of what you were doing at AAA. Try to keep doing that. And we get to see that with the Sounds down at the AAA level, just the nature of the job and the time that you're spending at the ballpark. So that kind of stuff never gets old when you see good people, hard workers having success at the highest level. It's really one of the more enjoyable parts of the job down at AAA.
Jeff M. joining us on the guest hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call, that's all. Jeff, when a team like the Brewers wins 97 games and there's this feeling of like the summer of joy and friendship and pancakes and all those sorts of things that were going on in Milwaukee, what is the trickle-down effect to the AAA club? And I'm curious, not just about the players, but to you and to the front office and to the fans. Like, is there a the rising tide lifts all boats? Is there an excitement in Nashville when the Brewers are playing well? Or is there kind of a separation that like Nashville's trying to take care of its own stuff and get its own wins and get the players ready for Milwaukee, but also like they gotta focus internally as well? How does that, what is the connection strength between the teams when things go well like they did for the Brewers last year?
Yeah, I think on the field, there's a direct excitement and correlation. I mean, if you're at AAA Nashville last year and you see the big league team going on what became a 15-game winning streak and building and building and building and just becoming this steamrolling team, how could you not be further incentivized to want to get up there and join that, especially because, and I've talked to guys about this as they've gone up and come down, or talked to Rhys Hoskins and Brandon Woodruff last year when they were on rehab assignments. The veterans at that team, whether Yelich and Woodruff, and when Freddie was there, Peralta, like the way that they went out of their way to make sure the young guys felt welcome when they went up is a big reason why the younger guys had success last year. And so you have to have that kind of mirrored effect, that symmetry between Major League and AAA, because the veterans up there who know they're not going to get sent down are also smart enough to know that their success is going to hinge on how well these guys do when they come up. So it's in their best interest to help those young guys feel comfortable. So there was like this extension of like the Brewers won and it felt like the Sounds won because so many recent Sounds last year were up there. And then the guys that weren't are seeing their buddies go up and be part of it. And in some cases come back. And then I want a piece of that pie. I'm sure is what they're thinking. Rick Sweet would talk about that all the time. Like if you late in the AAA season, if your team's not in the playoff chase or you're on the outside looking in, like the bigger, much larger incentive is to try to get a shot on that playoff roster. And we've seen that happen the last couple of years. So I think there's a direct effect. And then the other part of it is that the Brewers are really smart in building the AAA roster to try to fit the style of how the big league team goes about it. I mean, the Sounds shattered their record last year for team stolen bases. They had great defense. Like they were built on starting pitching, good bullpen, a ton of stolen bases, aggressive base running, not just with steals. And because it's like, hey, if you go up, this is what you're expected to do. That's another element of the symmetry that the Brewers have gotten good at building between Nashville and Milwaukee, so that the more guys are going to go up, because you're going to need them more and more as these years go on, the less of a jump it feels like. Because, yes, you go to a bigger stadium and you go to all the show of the major leagues, but from an on-field standpoint, the idea is like, this is what I was doing down at AAA. I was aggressively running bases and I was helping the team win in whatever way. I was focusing on my role. I wasn't trying to be the cleanup hitter if I was batting eighth, and you just go about your business. And that's a really fun way for a player to fit in when they do get that major league opportunity. And it feels, I would imagine, less of a big hurdle and more of a seamless transition to go up when you've been part of that at AAA.
All right, Jeff, last one. Best promotion Nashville's got this year. I know the Rick Sweet bobblehead was awesome last season. You got anything on top of your mind if anyone wants to plan a trip down there?
Oh man, we've got so much. We are doing a bobblehead series this year with Sal Freelick, Bryce Terang, and Jacob Mizorowski. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Done.
So you can kind of build the series, and then all the bobbleheads actually like connect to each other. We're calling it the Skyline series. So like the background builds to make the Nashville skyline behind three very prominent Brewers and recent Sounds. So that's going to be a fun giveaway. Our Throwback Thursdays are always popular. Nashville being a fun place for people to hang out and maybe have a beverage or two. You can do that at a nice discounted rate on our Throwback Thursdays, and the Sounds wear their old school look uniform from the late 70s, early 80s when Don Mattingly was playing there. And so that's an always popular promotion. Fans can bring their dogs every Tuesday night to our games. So there's all kinds of good stuff. We'd love to have anybody from Milwaukee come on down and and join us in Nashville a time or two this summer.
I think we'll need to figure out a Thunder and Tommy road trip to meet up with Mason, get Mason his first pitch this season, and have a blast down there for a weekend series. If we can get away from the Brewers long enough, I know Tommy's doing the pregame and postgame, but if we could do some special remote broadcasts from the stadium there, that would be an absolute blast.
Great.
All right.
That'd be great. Let's make it happen. Let me know.
Let's make it happen. Jeff, thank you so much for jumping on the show today. We had an absolute blast. We will definitely be checking in with you throughout the season.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jeff.
All right.
Jeff Ham, Nashville Sounds play-by-play broadcaster, joining us right here on the Guest Hotline, powered by Gruber Law. One call. That's all. We've got some March Madness to talk about, and we also have DeRosa, DeRosans. The Italians figured it out for DeRosa. So we got to talk some World Baseball Classic when we come back as well. This is the Mason Crosby Show, presented by Verizon. This is the Mason Crosby Show presented by Verizon, the official 5G network of the Green Bay Packers. I'm Mitch Nellis. He's Tommy Wirtz. Who does Brewers beat writer Kurt Hogue feel is going to make the opening day roster? What's the lineup going to look like? This is yesterday's promo. Good job, Mitch. Dummy.
I'm pretty sure Kurt Hogue's on today.
Oh, is he on today?
Yeah.
Oh, Sparky sent it yesterday. What? What's he doing sending stuff ahead of time? I saw Wednesday on it. Yep. Kurt Hogue will be on today at 3. He'll join Sparky on Wisconsin Sports Daily on the Wisconsin Sports Radio Network. All right, I don't have to tear that one up. Good job reading.
Yeah.
Thunder. Yeah. The Badgers game about to tip off in about 9 minutes or so. Kentucky leads Missouri in the SEC tournament by 5 with 5 minutes left. That's the fun, exciting game we're watching right now. Nolan Winter officially ruled out by Tommy Wirtz. Actually, probably by team doctors. Nolan Winter will not play for the Badgers today. There's still hope that he will be ready. I don't know if later in the tournament if they win today, assuming they beat Washington. But certainly the hope is that he's ready for a week from today when the Badgers start playing the NCAA tournament, whether it's a week from today or a week from tomorrow if they play first on Thursday or Friday. So again, Kurt Hogue will join Sparky today at 3. Our thanks to Jeff Hem for jumping on the guest hotline powered by Gruber Lot 1 called. That's all, quote unquote, Tommy. They bailed us out. Team USA skipper Mark DeRosa is thankful to his country mates, the Italians, because he's Italian. Get it?
Correct.
Yeah. For winning yesterday. And yesterday in the World Baseball Classic, in an elimination game, Canada beat Cuba 7-2. Canada moves on. Italy knocks out Mexico. And in a game that only meant things for seeding, but both teams were already advancing, the Dominican Republic beat Venezuela 7-5.
That DR team is awesome to watch.
Yeah.
They
Tatis, Marte, Soto, Vlad, Machado, Caminero, Rodriguez, Wells,
have you seen
and Perdomo.
Have you seen some of these
studs? Absolute studs.
The celebrating homers, the no doubters.
No, I've not.
Oh, there's been
crazy?
some that have taken over 30 seconds to get around the bases, like from just purely getting amped up with their dugout.
Ketel Marte, Juan Soto, Vladi Dadi, Fernando Tatis, all homered.
I think the Nando homer is the one that I caught a glimpse of.
Okay.
And the best tweet I saw with it was, I totally thought you didn't have to run around the bases based on how he was acting after he hit that homer.
Like you just get to celebrate.
Right. It was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And Mark DeRosa, pretty lucky getting bailed out the way he did.
Yeah.
If Italy won, no matter what, that Italy team also,
Italy 4-0.
They're frisky. They're not bad. They're kind of fun to watch.
Yeah. No, they are. The 3 teams went undefeated: the Dominican Republic, Japan, and Italy. Those were your 3 teams that won 4-0 in this tournament.
The Pasquatch yesterday, 3 homers.
3 bombs.
3 homers.
Yeah. How about that kid? Pasquantino. Absolute stud for the Royals, and just absolutely. I think that I don't know if anybody on the Royals on the U.S. team slipped him a couple bucks, but definitely an exciting moment. So the U.S. now moves on, and Friday night on Fox, it'll be the U.S. against Canada in the first quarterfinal matchup. On the other side of the bracket, it'll be Korea and the Dominican Republic. They will face each other in the quarterfinal as well. Listen, Canada's good. Canada's good.
Tyler Black.
Right. U.S. should, not because of Tyler Black, probably, but U.S. should win that game. But Canada's a decent team. They went 3-1. They took care of Cuba, who's a good team.
If you want to have some sort of rooting interest, tying it back to the Milwaukee Brewers as well, Rob Zastryzny, Tyler Black are on Team Canada. Abner Uribe, who, by the way, welcome to the Abner Uribe experience. If you didn't know, walked the bases loaded yesterday with no outs, with the tying run at the plate for the Dominican Republic team in the closer role. He's on the DR. Bryce Terang, obviously, with the United States. And the most representation, Team Venezuela, William Contreras, Jackson Churio, Angel Serpa, all still in the WBC.
The U.S., an overwhelming favorite. They are minus 770 to win their game. They are the biggest favorite in this round. Korea, Dominican Republic. Oh, no, Dominican Republic just better at minus 835. Puerto Rico at Italy is almost a pick 'em, which is a little surprising to me. I would have thought Puerto Rico would have been a little bit better of a favorite, but Italy
looks good,
right?
man.
You can't debate it. And Venezuela, Japan is actually a pretty even matchup as well. So U.S., we will all hope for the best Friday and be watching that Friday evening on Fox. As we look, it is Thursday. It is March Madness. It is not the Thursday of March Madness. That is a week from today. A week from right now, Tommy, we will be like in the thick of it.
Yeah.
Right? We will have divin
First
in.
round action.
We will be live from the Annex at the Potawatomi Sportsbook. So if you want to come watch the shows, 9 to noon, we'll be there. Sparky will be there. I think it opens to the public at 11. So even though 9 to noon starts at 9, I think that like food and beverage and seating starts at 11. So you will be able to. I have heard, Tommy, that the fullback will be in attendance. John Kuhn, IRL in real life, straight from Hawaii to the Potawatomi Sportsbook.
He's probably got a limo coming from the airport right there,
Probably.
Chapato.
Or he probably has a limo from the airport up to Door County and then back to Potawatomi.
So he can use the bathroom at home.
Right,
and then
right.
he gets limoed back.
Hey, come on. Let's be honest, though. Don't we all prefer our home bathroom?
I get it.
Like if you had a choice, if you were halfway between work and home and you had to, go potty.
I actually think that the work bathroom here typically
the private room, the private one offer is good.
Yeah.
The public one that has the 2 stalls and the urinal.
Yeah, that one's
a little
sometimes.
That's a little sus.
But other than that, I understand home field advantage. I get it. I get it.
You can relax. And
Are you worried about this game with no Nolan Winter?
Yeah. And I'm on record. I think I really want to win today.
Yeah.
I don't really care moving. I actually don't want to embarrass myself if I'm the Badgers, but I don't really care about winning tomorrow. Like I just don't. Like I want to get to tomorrow though. Like as I look at I have it somewhere. I printed it. I don't know if you knew that or not, Tommy. I probably put it somewhere else. The Badgers, the winner of this game plays Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
And the Badgers already won at Illinois. And I don't want the concept of Nolan Winter coming back too early because you need him against Illinois. I don't want any of that to play. I'd like to win this game. But I don't necessarily feel like you have to make a deep run of this tournament. Badgers favored by 6.5 in this one, I think.
That doesn't seem high enough.
Like you think they should be favored by more?
No, I don't like that it's not a higher number.
Oh. Well, but I think
Feels
that also,
trap game.
but I think that also reflects that Nolan Winter's not playing.
Right, it'd be 9.5.
And that
if it was
as
Nolan
great
Winter.
as Austin Rapp has been, he's still inconsistent.
Sure.
And so him and Biskilkis,
Biliauskas.
that's what I said. We'll like there's an inconsistency there that Nolan Winter generally alleviates.
Yeah, I'm just worried about it. I don't like it, and especially when the Badgers rely on Nick Boyd. He either puts up 25 points or he puts up 8 points, it feels like. And now he does put up 25 more than
often.
He puts in up 8.
A lot more often.
But if he doesn't have his day, it kind of scares me every time they go out.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. And they're so dependent on making their threes. I mean, even if Boyd has his day, if Carrington's off or if
Carrington is 20 or nothing, literally every time he goes out there.
If Rapp is off, if Blackwell is off, I mean, they are in a place where they need, listen, it's like any basketball team. Like you need everybody to step up. You need everyone to show up. You need everyone to play their game. And so if you look at the game log of Nick Boyd, 23 against Purdue. He only scored 13 against Maryland because they didn't need him. 22 against Washington, then 11 in the loss to Oregon. 27 against Iowa, then only 14 in the loss against Ohio State. And then 29 against Michigan State, 25 against Illinois. He scored 20 against Indiana, which should have been a win. 21 against Ohio State, which was that was the game they beat Ohio State. 21 against Minnesota. 29 against USC, which was the last second loss. But he's much more often scoring that 25 than he's scoring that 11. So I don't. I mean, if they score 11, it's bad. If others don't step up, if others don't play their game, then they're in more trouble, in my opinion. I don't think it's Boyd dependent. I think it's others dependent. If Boyd's bad, it's over. But if Boyd's good, they still can lose this game if others don't step up. 414-677-1250 is the Nicolay Law Talking text line. 414-677-1250. I don't know how many people got a chance to see the Marquette game last night. They were in the 7-10 matchup, kind of the pre-matchups, the two games they play at the Big East tournament before the big tournament gets underway today. They drop a game to Xavier, season over. But I think like for whatever reason, and maybe it's because you got the freshman of the year, and that matters. That's a big deal. I don't feel as badly about Marquette as I did earlier this season. Nigel James last night, 18 points, 7 assists. Chase Ross, the senior, 16 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds. Ben Gold struggled, 5 points, 11 rebounds. And Royce Parham went up for 22. He had the team high in points. 89, 87, you lose that one. It's kind of two teams that had very disappointing seasons. Xavier's now 15-17, Marquette 12-20, 20-loss season. That's a little rough. But I think that Marquette can turn it around quickly. I don't know if they will, but I think they can. Ram's on the north side. Ram, real quick, what do you got for us today?
Hey, man, I'm going to tell you this. When you look at the regular season basketball, just because the teams you see that are ranked, that's different than this.
And who's good?
The tournament is like the NBA, except they're not playing a series. But I'm going to say this. The teams that Wisconsin can make us a Final Four the way they play, because I think they're more built to win one game and go home.
Sure.
Like, I think BYU is like that. I think Iowa State's like that. Definitely Houston. But like the long part of the season, 30 games, maybe not. But I just want to see Wisconsin get more paint touches. I want the ball to go in and kick out.
Ooh,
and don't
hate that.
come out putting up threes. You know what I mean?
But that's their game. Their game is 3-pointers. But I like the
they
concept,
don't have a Curry, though.
I like
you can do that when you got a Curry or KD. So take that out of the equation. Let's kick the ball in, then kick it out.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, they can still shoot threes, but I think what you're saying is you want to see them move the ball a little bit more and get it inside. I don't hate that, Ram. I think that's a good strategy.
I think they can win a Big Ten tournament like that.
They can, but I don't want them to.
They're big. I don't want everywhere else on the front line. They rebound. They do everything as well. But I don't want you to be codependent on threes, because you can get hot in the first half, be cold in the second half.
That's true. That's a good point, Ram. Thanks for the call. And I'm on record. I don't want them to win the Big Ten tournament. I don't think they need that type of pressure. I don't think they need to play that hard Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. That's 4 straight days of playing really hard. That's too much. I'm not here for that. We will be back to wrap things up. 414-677-1250, the Nicolay Law Talking text line. This is the Mason Crosby Show, presented by Verizon. This is the Mason Crosby Show, presented by Verizon. I'm Mitch Nellis. He's Tommy Wirtz. DL Hall on the mound for the Brewers today. He'll be the opener. Easton McGee, Tommy's favorite, Jacob Wagspack on the mound. Drew Rom-Com, and Peter Strzelecki also slated to play. That's a night game, 8:05 tonight at Goodyear Ballpark as the Brewers take on the Guardians. The Badgers, I think, are up 6-2 right now at the first TV timeout. Some slow, cold shooting there in the United Center. Not unnormal. The United Center used to be notorious for terrible shooting. So I don't know. Was that a thing you were into, Tommy?
Shooting in an arena?
The shooting because the way it's built up high, it was a deeper background than most new buildings when the United Center was built. Yep. That was a thing back in the day.
Never heard that.
Yep. We're going to keep our eye, as we do, on all of the conference championship games. Sparky's got Kurt Hogue at 3:00 today on Wisconsin Sports Daily. They're going to talk about Brewers opening day roster and probably get into an arm wrestling match. Easton McGee versus Brandon Sprout. Just because Hogue and McCalvey have everybody else the same doesn't mean that's how it ends up. There's still, Tommy, 2 weeks from today.
Yes, sir.
2 weeks. So 1 week from today is the opening of March Madness. 2 weeks from today is opening day. Man, we are in exciting times here in the sports world. It's just fun. It's just fun right now. Like, get outside. It's going to snow 47 inches this weekend. Like, who cares?
So stupid.
You're so excited for the snow, Tommy.
No, I'm not.
Yeah, you are. Come on.
I hate it.
No, but you're going to shovel. You're going to get a discount on your rent because you shovel, right?
It's so stupid.
I just hope it doesn't interfere with my driving back and forth to Green Bay.
Oh, it definitely will.
Am I going to Green Bay tomorrow?
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to Green Bay tomorrow. I will be at WNFL doing the show tomorrow, so then I can saunter over to the Resch Center to watch the Whitefish Bay girls play Elkhorn in the 2-3 matchup. Rice Lake Beaver Dam playing in the 1-4. D1 is stacked, by the way. Tosa East, Pewaukee, Arrowhead, and I don't know. It doesn't even matter who number 4 is. Green Bay, Notre Dame. Yeah, man, that is a stacked 4 right there. He's Tommy Wirtz. I'm Mitch Nelson. We are the Mason Crosby Show presented by Verizon, the official 5G network of the Green Bay Packers. And shout out to our friends at Potawatomi. The Potawatomi Sportsbook will be there a week from today at the Annex for all of the March Madness fun. Badgers up 9-2. Let's go Red.